For some reason, the Gunner faction appears to be one of the most sought-after factions when it comes to modding. They're either going to be targeted by overhauls, new armors, new weapons, or otherwise. For some reason, they just seem to be a perfect fit when it comes to mods, maybe because there is so much mystery behind them in the vanilla game. That being said, despite having a ton of new mods that you get to look at for the Gunners all the time, we have yet another one. Thankfully, Chumba Jamba has been making a bunch of armor sets and different overhauls for other factions, but now Chumba Jamba has made a big pack for the Gunners. You may be familiar with a very popular mod known as the Gunner Outfit Pack by Default the Fixer. This mod is going to aim to rival that. Now, by no means there is no competition between these two mods, but if you're limited on space, you may have to pick between these two because they are both just fantastic. And this mod is going to do a whole lot more than the Gunner Outfit Pack does in a couple of areas. While it may not have the sheer number of outfits that the Gunner Outfit Pack has, it comes with a lot of other benefits that are very, very nice. Now, that being said, if you don't have any problems with space like me, you can actually run both at the same time and they work together seamlessly. Matter of fact, both of these mods have a pretty similar style, and none of the armors in either pack seem to really conflict with each other. They all have a very different look from each other in terms of individual armors, but they all have a very similar aesthetic that fit together very nicely. So if you want even more armors, then I would say download both for sure. Now, the mod we're checking out specifically today is Chumba Jamba's Gunner Armor Collection. But it's much more than an armor collection. It's going to include a ton of new armors, a handful of unique armors, as well as unique bosses that will wear said armors, a couple of new weapons, as well as unique weapons for those bosses as well, armors that extend beyond the human race, including dog armors and super mutant armors, as well as a new power armor and a unique power armor that will once again spawn on a boss. There is a cool new location, actually a couple of new locations depending on which optional files you choose, but the biggest one is going to be a new gunner camp that will allow you to get a lot of these new armors, and it actually won't be hostile immediately. It can be a new place for you to clear out and get a bunch of fun unique gear, but it can also be a nice little trading post for you depending on what you like. There's also a handful of new NPCs, and if you're a fan of drivables of the Commonwealth, there's also a new vehicle that is gunner inspired for that mod as well. That's not going to be part of the base pack, but if you decide to download the optional file and you have drivables of the Commonwealth, you'll get a brand new Jeep with a nice gunner theme, which is kind of cool. A really, really interesting thing to add to this. Essentially, one of the most feature-complete armor packs I've ever seen. Again, new armors, weapons, armors for non-humans, power armors, new locations, new NPCs, and a vehicle is kind of a crazy pack, to be honest. A lot of people had their hands on this mod, including Chumba Jamba and others, and you can really see it here because there's a lot going on. Now, one of the biggest features of this mod is, of course, going to be the armor. And if you want to get your hands on any of that armor, it is actually added to the leveled list with the leveled list injection. It will be added to the existing pool of gunner equipment, so it'll be spawning alongside vanilla stuff and alongside any modded equipment that you have as well. So if you're using something like the gunner outfit pack by default, that will spawn, then install this, and it'll spawn alongside that. And all of that will start happening after level 20 for these armor sets. So you won't find them at level 1. They will spawn after level 20. Now, there is also another means to get this armor. You can go over to the Renegade Gunners Camp, which we will show off shortly. That is just north of Fort Hagen. It is a nice camp that will have a merchant that will sell you all of the armor and weapons available in this mod. But if you are hostile to the Gunners, you can eliminate everybody in the camp as well and loot the place, and you should have pretty much everything that way as well. Now, there is one other option that you can have to get any of these items. It is an optional file known as Smuggler's Hideout. This is going to add a nice little tiny camp on an overpass south of Covenant, which has another merchant where you can buy all of the gear. Now, on top of all of that integration, there is also one other optional file that will add 3 unique gunner bosses, each of which will have their own unique armors and weapons that will be scattered around the Commonwealth. You can go and find those. So on top of all of the stuff that we're going to be covering in this video, you'll also get all of the old Chumba Jamba mods. So the cool new unique weapons and unique armors that were seen in his past mods have been included as an optional file here if you want it to be nice as one complete package that will really, really overhaul the Gunners. Now, there's a ton going on in this mod, so I think we have to jump in game and start checking off some of these really, really cool things that we need to look at. For starters, let's go ahead and check out the new Big Gunner Camp, because I think that's really one of the stars of the show here. Even though it is an armor pack, the new location shows off a lot of the cool new stuff, and in a really fun and interesting way. So here we are at the Gunner Renegade Camp, and as you can see immediately, there's a lot of cool new stuff going on. All of which is going to use modded assets, or rather repurpose vanilla assets used in a really cool new way to make some new modded items. Now, if you want to get to this location, like I said earlier, it is just above Fort Hagen. So here's the satellite array, and here is the Renegade Gunner Camp, just west of Relay Tower OBB 915. Now, this place is pretty cool. It is walled off all the way around, but whenever you get to the entrance, you'll see a new modded tank, which looks pretty crazy, as well as a new gunner who is working on it, wearing some of the new modded armor. And you'll see that all around here. A really, really cool location. If we go around the outside here, you'll see some new guards, turrets, and some really interesting guard posts, as well as new flags and different items. A lot of effort was really put into this location, and that makes it just so cool and such a unique experience compared to some other mods. Most armor packs or overhauls are going to be pretty simple. They'll do exactly what they intend to do, but this one goes above and beyond. As we head inside, we'll see the Jeep that you'll get if you were to have drivables of the Commonwealth. This is something that you could actually drive, which is really cool. There's some tents and some other gunners, all of which wearing the new, really cool armors. And these guys are pretty heavily kitted. Most of them have some pretty interesting guns that would give you quite a hard time if you were to try to take over this location. You also see some pretty interesting stuff like super mutants who have been enthralled by this gunner location, and they're wearing their own gunner armor as well, which is pretty different, but also really, really cool. We do have Captain Stockard, who does not have any actual dialogue. You can't interact with him too much, but it does add a little bit of lore to this location. And then we have the Merchant. And if we interact with him, we can actually browse through the entire inventory. That's going to include all of the weapons. I've actually purchased some from here, so they're kind of missing. But all of the armors as well, which is pretty nice. That's going to be quite a bit of stuff to look through. With that out of the way, though, now let's talk about all of the individual armors in this pack, because there are a lot of them. Starting off with the Armored Merchant Armor. One of my favorite armors in this pack, believe it or not, because it has a really cool contrasty vibe. A jacket that has little use in the NIF-bashing scene. Overall, a nice armored set that still has a little bit of style to it. I really like this one a lot. Then we have what's known as the Assault Armor, which is a really, really cool gunner option. With a lot of mag pouches and grenades, this thing looks ready for battle. Now, this doesn't come with a helmet innately. You can pair this with any helmet out of this pack that you like, though, or, of course, anything beyond this pack. We'll be showcasing the helmets separately because some of them do go with outfits, but some of them seem to be standalone completely. For example, this here beret and eye patch combo, which is perfect for any grizzled veteran. A pretty simple hat, but one that looks really cool, and fits well with pretty much any of these armors depending on how you want your character to look. We also have what's known as the Bounty Hunter hat, a nice cowboy hat with some shells sticking out of the top here. A really, really cool look. Doesn't quite go with any of the armors that I've seen in this pack, but it is nice to have as another option. You could even have this hat with any of the other armors in the vanilla, or even modded stuff. You can mix and match. That's kind of the fun of these outfits in Fallout. Now, the next set we'll show off together, as this is the Infantry Armor and Infantry Helmet. These guys are meant to go together, and they make for a really, really nice combo. A pretty simple set of armor, but very different from anything you see in vanilla, making use of some really interesting assets and some new retextures to make them look pretty cool, and a nice new green fit for the Gunner faction. This next set is also a nice little combo. We have the Kevlar Helmet and the Kevlar Armor. A pretty interesting look for some softer armor compared to the really hard armor that we had previously. Looks sort of like a sort of military guard outfit than rather a trooper, but something that still is really nice for your settlement. If you need guards at the front door, or maybe at a gate, this might be a really cool set of armor to give to them, or maybe this is something that you like for your own character as well. This next set is known as the Light Tactical Armor, and I think it pairs nicely with a beret. It features a nice black shirt and a really cool little chest rig here, as well as green pants and green armor to go with them. Altogether, a really cool contrasty set that I think looks really nice. It's a lighter set of armor, but I think it looks pretty dang cool. I could even see myself using this one quite a bit on my own character. The next armor set is another one that comes with a helmet. This is known as the Scout set. This is going to include Scout armor and a Scout helmet, with a pretty interesting duster and eyepiece on the helmet that adds a little bit of a recon vibe. Something that's meant to be stealthy, but still pretty mobile, yet armored. A really, really cool set that looks very interesting. One of the more detailed pieces in this pack. Here we have the Tactical Armor and Tactical Helmet. One of the more basic sets, I would say. This looks like pretty standard combat armor with a nice little bit of flair with extra pouches and grenades and some goggles, but overall, pretty true to the original Gunner aesthetic. And then finally, these aren't technically meant to go together, I don't think, but this is known as the Trooper Armor and the Vanguard Helmet. The Trooper Armor is a pretty cool set of armor with some nice fusion cells as well as a grenade match onto it, but the helmet, known as the Vanguard Helmet, has a pretty interesting effect which highlights any NPCs nearby. Whether it's hostiles or friendlies, they will glow red, so you have really good targeting with this helmet equipped. Now, that's going to do it for all of these standard armor sets, minus the uniques that you can find out in the world. But we also need to talk about power armor. Here we have the Bobcat set of power armor, a new gunner power armor that is highly customizable, including different skins over at the armor's workbench, or the power armor workbench. There is also one other power armor that you can find on a boss, but sadly I do not have the optional file for all of the bosses installed. So this is going to be the standard set that you'll find at the merchants, the stuff that you'll normally run into. Now, all of that being said, there are technically still more armors to talk about for the non-humans. We have the armor for dogs, whether it's dog meat or a different dog companion. We actually have 3 armor pieces here. You're looking at all 3. There is going to be the big chest rig. The pouches that are on the front are actually a separate piece altogether if you want to give some more carry weight, and then there's also a helmet for the dog. And all of these can be mixed and matched with whatever armors you want, however you want. But they go together really, really nicely if you want a gunner-themed look for your dog, or dog meat, or what other companions you have. Maybe it's even just a guard dog at your settlement. Whatever you want, this is going to be a nice little set of armor as a bonus to all of the other stuff in this pack. But then, of course, we also have the new mutant armors. So if you have a mutant companion, you can get some of these as well. There are 2 different sets. The first of which here is going to be a little bit lighter with the arms exposed, but a nice heavy chest piece. Gunner green all the way down, and a completely enclosed helmet with some glowing features. Honestly, a pretty intimidating set. I wouldn't want to run into one of these things in the wild. The other set here, pretty intimidating as well, has some arm guards, even heavier armor with some shotgun shells mounted, and an even bigger helmet. A pretty different look, but still pretty similar in terms of the general vibe. A really cool heavy armor for gunner super mutants, something you don't really hear about in other locations, but they are here, and you can equip it to a companion if you decide to do so. Maybe you're using a mod that lets you join the gunners, and you have Strong as a companion. Now you have something for him to wear, thanks to this mod. And now the final pieces of kit in the standard version of the mod, with none of the optional files, are going to be the last 2 weapons. We have the heavy shotgun, a new heavy weapon that is going to be a shotgun using flamer animations. It has a side-fed magazine. This thing is very upgradable. It actually has a lot of attachments, surprisingly, including different magazine sizes, shields, and sights, as well as a bunch of other stuff there. This is a pretty cool option. Does a lot of damage, uses 12-gauge shells in a really interesting and fun way. Altogether, a really cool addition to the mod beyond all of the other really cool stuff that we already have. And the very last thing we should be talking about is the Pyrolator, a new heavy flamer option used in, well, more of a standard configuration. Still a very, very big weapon, but held a little bit more like a typical rifle. Close to it anyways. It's using the Cryolator animations. It's a really powerful flamer. It spits a lot of damage and has a lot of attachments available as well. Overall, a ton of content in this mod. Truly, you are getting a lot of bang for your buck here, and there's even more stuff than I showcased today, as again, there are optional files for more unique bosses with their own armors and their own weapons. There is just a lot going on, plus a drivable vehicle if you're into that kind of thing. A truly exhausting mod. So much stuff, it's really worth checking out. So if you want to try it for yourself, it will be linked down in the description below as always. While you're down there, if you enjoy the content I make here on YouTube or the mods I make on the Nexus, consider checking me out on Patreon if you want to support my work directly. Of course, that is completely optional, not something you feel like you need to do. With that, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace!